Let's come and sit on our treaty presentation. We had to start over here. The history and something else, Tati, Mutia. I would actually got to man. Nistava Simpson, Kiwi the Moma, elders, lots of our Montreal. Triple P's, they got them. The Chili Steel bungalows, they got that. Darryl McCallum, big Scott Dagoma, treaty presentation. I'm going to put that in big screen. I'm not going to say a few words, but never on treaty. Big Scott Dagoma. So we'll get an open mic after a while. So we'll give you guys at least another 5 to 7 minutes to be able to go outside and have a quick cigarette, quick health break. Then we'll start with the presentation on the treaty presentation. You can say 5. And we're not starting on Indian time. We're going to be ahead of schedule. We're ahead of schedule by 9 minutes. Like I say, I want to introduce our presenter this morning. He's no stranger to the country music scene. He goes by Boots McCallum when he entertains, but he actually does have a real name. His name is Darryl McCallum. He comes to us from Pelican Arrows, with our chickadee. That's where Darryl comes from. So I want to turn the microphone over to him and introduce him. So here's Darryl McCallum.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning, this fine morning. I'd like to thank, I believe Harry Toole said the opening prayer this morning, and ask him for that opening prayer. Prayer is so very important today. I want to say, I humbly thank the prevention program for inviting me to speak on treaties. And first of all, my introduction is a little bit lengthy when I introduce myself, because part of my introduction when I start with a group is I usually entertain some of these questions are, what are treaty rights? What do we know about our identities? What do we know of our own history? What is my role as a parent, caregiver, or elder? What do I know about the treaties? What does the treaty right to education mean? Do I know my own culture? So these are all the questions I've traveled across Canada, meeting different elders across this great country. And I talked to some of them. Some of them won't have a lot of this knowledge. They lack this knowledge. They lack the knowledge of their history. They lack the knowledge of identity and culture. And these are the elders where they're supposed to be the knowledge keepers of our children. So all over Canada, it's not just in Montreal Lake, it's in Pelican Arrows too. I have my mother is still alive, she's 76 years old. She's a survivor of residential school, day school. I'm a survivor of day school. So these are some of the questions we ask ourselves sometimes. And it's very important, sometimes, especially when we're raising grandchildren and children, that they need to know what their identity is. Before we even approach treaties, we gotta go beyond the treaty, before treaty. What was there before treaty? Do we know? Do we have some oral stories to tell our children? We're hanging on to them. Or have we lost them? The reason why I brought this drum this morning, this Dene drum was given to me as a gift in my travels. This was given to me in Black Lake. by an elder, because he knows in Peter Valentine we don't have this. We lost it. Back in the 20s, when they outlawed Indian people from practicing their spiritual practices, our grandmother Sally was her last name. I don't remember her last name, but she was the last living elder in Pelican Arrows to be singing with a hand drum in the Iduatama, singing to the Creator. And RCMP, the priest, and the Indian agent came and took that drum away and took it across the lake and sunk it with a big rock. And she sat by the beach crying. That's it. That's it. Our people are dead, was basically her death cry. That's it. They took everything away now. They took our drum. So when I tell that story, the Dene elder gave me a drum because he said, in order for your people to be a people again, this has to come back to your people. I had to get a drum from another culture in order to tell me that we need this back. So when you look at even the drum, Mutiamin and Vishnano in the woodland area, we didn't use those great big pails that they use at powwows. We used hand drums. This wood that you see that makes this circle, tamarack, waganagan. Waganagan is ligas of tamarack. When you pour hot water over tamarack, it becomes soft and you can bend it into a circle. And it's all over our area. Women are it for snowshoes, sleds. Waganagan. Cree word. Kawagin naman way. Bend it. Iwaginagan. So that's the kind of trees that we have. So they're in our area. It's not over for that. Sometimes we have to go to another culture to teach us how to make this circle again. But we need to sing those songs. An example I'll give you in Stamita was Montreal. The priests, when they first came, how were they able to sing with our people? They had to sing with our medicine people first. The time these things were taken away was at treaty time. When the Indian Act was enforced on our people, that's when they really took our culture away. Before that, the priests were busy trying to learn who we were. Where do you think syllabics came from? We were actually working together. When you think, when we're Christian, I'm trying to learn that song in the sweet by and by in Cree with this Cree medicine man. You hear it? It's a drum beat. Yes. So that's the kind of interaction that happened between our medicine people and the other drum beat, the heartbeat. Right? So we have a drum beat. That's where they came from. Our Cree hymn books, when we use the black Catholic book and the red Anglican book, that's how the interaction was happening. It was a drum beat, sitting with our people 300 and some years ago, not 150 like the treaties. We act like aliens when we talk about ourselves because we start our timeline from the treaty, right? It's got to be a little bit beyond. No, our people were proud. They were proud singers to sing to the drum. Even the morning song, right? Like that. My children sing that song because my dad sang that song in my house in the mornings. And my children still remember that song. And my dad only heard it from the TV. Nobody taught him. He heard it from a radio program in the mornings that sang that song. And he repeated that song to my own kids. But my kids hear that song right away, Grandpa. It reminds them of their grandfather. So song is very powerful because right away they'll start telling a story about their grandfather. Now they're storytellers, right? Passing on family language. You know what? I brought this morning to time myself and I didn't even turn it on. Nowadays, even that, the Montreal, Pisamugan. We used to use Pisam, now we use Pisamugan. Now everything we do is Pisamugan. And when we're talking about Indian time, I was on time here because Indians back in the day, they were so on time, they would go sleep with the plants to wait for them to bloom. Sometimes 2 weeks waiting for that plant to bloom so they can grab that medicine the right time. So they were very on time, without the Indian time, half hour late. Right? So we were actually very on time. We worked with Mother Earth. So and I didn't even get to the part where who I am yet. Anyway, this is a picture of my area. This pottery remains were found in my area in Deschambault Lake in Musumpatnak approximately 10,000 years ago. Clay pots were made by our people. Clay pots. Clay. So I asked those Deschambault people, are you guys still making clay pots in there? What is that? So that's what happens when a lot of our history over time has been taken away from us. We start to forget. But that where they collected that clay must be still there. Not unless there's a mine on top of it today. But there's sacred areas where we went to go collect clay to make pots. And it's 10,000 years, not 150 years ago, based on treaty. So that's how far we gotta think. Now, when I'm an indigenous person, I don't even present myself as Woodland Cree. The first time the white man started writing down who we were was in the 1700s in my area. And they called us Asiniskawitnua. Where I live, Asiniskaw. Lots of rock. When I went to Pagitawag in Manitoba for the first time to go play music, I'm standing there going, how dare you call me that? I thought it was a dirty name. I didn't even understand it. But the elder himself said, Kisnano. He started giving me all the names of the communities. Montreal, Lake, Lac, Laurence, Peter, Valentine, Pagitaw, and Kisnano, Nagatitan. We left you guys. We went further. And it wasn't because of treaty or anything, it was because of the land. They didn't stick around for a treaty day once a year. Right? So in the 1700s, Rocky Cree from the northeast side of present-day Saskatchewan and Manitoba had permanent villages in the area. So that already tells me 300 years ago, so that's what I call myself when I present myself. First of all, I'm a Sinskawit no Rocky Cree, but where I come from is Wapawa Wustigan. Now, at Wapawa Wustigan 300 years ago, Wapawa na Magaya at the Pelican Arrows, there's two bridges. The first one And then the second one was a bigger one where you could actually travel through. Back in the day, the only way to get to Cumberland House or to York Factory or to Churchill, Manitoba, 300 years ago, was through that Narrows. That Narrows connected to Pelican Lake. Pelican Lake connects into Churchill River. So the water route was very important. So these other tribes like Dakotas, Poatan, Kawaste, Wichiponi, or Dene, they're trying to go east to go buy axes, guns, knives, beads. They're only hearing these trades going on by oral. What's Kisnano as Cree people, we went to the white man, we bought all our stuff, and we told these other tribes, no, you're not coming through. You got to trade with us. So we fought. Where I live in that Narrows, there was people getting killed right at the Narrows. At nighttime, 300 years ago, there'd be a long string from here to the other side of the Narrows. A little piece of hide, rope, to reach the other side. You know when you kill a kanpat, a grouse, you know that pouch that has the berries and you dry it and you blow and it becomes a baby rattle? They used to hang hundreds of those on strings across they put these strings on, so if even the Dene were trying to cross that Narrows at nighttime, they all rattle and they wake up and they start fighting again. So those are the kind of stories we carry. And I guarantee you in that Narrows, there's lots of arrowheads. You will take it on Pataganwe. And one time a Sioux tribe came and tried to come and steal our children and women away. During that time, there's an oral story. While the men were out hunting, a tribe of Sioux came into our area and took some of our women and children. And when the Cree men found out, they started coming after them. The Sioux were being chased. So they were going back to west where they came from. They were passing this one water road and they came with one old man to guide them the waterway. An old man Sioux. But he was too slow and they were taking off, so they left him in an island. So our Cree people found this old man Sioux. So to this day we call that place Kimosom Puaknak, the Shambo Lake, because they left Kimosom Puaknak there. And we didn't kill him. We ended up taking him in and we let him die there, but we didn't let him marry anybody else. So, those are the oral stories. I said, those are 300 years old. And for Montreal Lake East Laval, the last living library is right here. Your last library is right here, Montreal Lake. If you guys want me to come back to your community in a gymnasium, we could start right from there and go 300 years ago. What do you guys remember? And we keep going right up to 2025. And we start recording what happened in Montreal Lake over those years, so that your children will have a sense of history. Where are you from? Pelican Arrows. Well, tell me about it. I don't know. It's up north. Sir, where are you from? Pelican Arrows. Oh, I heard they smoke fish up there. No, we smoke cigarettes like everybody else. sometimes it's good to use humor, but it's also a very serious topic. And the only way we can do that is that we talk about our grandchildren too. Conrad guy with the camera that's asked people so I'm all over the world. I think the whole story in the name too is so. And some people would prefer to share papiyata in their home with a cup of tea, not in front of a big crowd, right? So we have to find those people that carry the stories. What stories do you remember? Even when did Christianity come into our community? It's part of our history how we ended up being Christians. It was embarrassing for me in university. There's people standing here from some culture down south. They knew all about the practices of their people, the ceremonies, walking ceremony, the burning ceremony. Your turn at that. I'm Catholic. I didn't have absolutely no knowledge of any ceremony at all. It's been, like I said, when they took it away, they took it away. Now I have to go relearn who I am as an indigenous person through the eyes of other cultures. Like our brothers right next door, the Plains Cree. So we know. In the south we have so much ceremony, but no language. And up north, but we have no ceremony. So at some point the north and south need to sit down together and share some ceremony. Those are pretty much the same ceremonies when people ask me up north, we didn't use sweet grass here. Okay, well, I'll go outside and look for that red birch bark that's really dry. It's from your area. I'll respect your environment, but do you smudge? They say, right? We're so spooked by our culture, holy smokes. Then when you start explaining to the elder, this is an elder, by the way. You papa tingin naman. Isingay agisa mo, isingay sa tuta mo kisiman to. You papa ti, iba. Toy mi ani da amigo mi muga niya michigan. Isu se michigan gane ayami awin. Right? With a michigan. Whereas kaya mi isiman to tiwo sa. It's my heart to the Creator. It's a more powerful prayer. Sometimes in the morning, all my sage, mula punigayamin. Kaya si mo sita ni matuad, yung sita matsuad, right? So as kumina, yung skami lilitin. So that month is very important because Isigai tamatsi un story uti tapa ti isigai sa itutamay. Very powerful. Para sila atin sutaman. When you start to understand the power of that prayer, which is that all my life would be a practicing. Igay gutsin sutaman ni chiki way. Apuas ko papia white no in toy me asi. We see. Ipiwi di siya. What's your set is the biggest square? The guy is getting the man. Tap But you're walking around as a young person on the reserve, and if you have nobody telling you that there's a powerful God out there, you're going to walk around the reserve with no respect, no consequence. Because somebody forgot to teach you there's God in this world. There's a right and wrong. Uskuni ani. Igais kinoma sigisiman tuwi ta. Iway papa muti sige piwilit sige. Iwano sa isigat uskuni ani. Muda po wasume wa pagod sa ikite matsana no. Muta uskuni ani gama chikuta tuwa. In peito Uskip matsa away nan peito uskip right in the reserve. They're not even hunting out in the land, they're hunting each other right in the damn reserve. Right? Because somebody forgot to teach them how to hunt a moose, not a human being. My goodness. I even had to cancel some trips this summer because they have something called drive-by shootings on the reserve. Darryl McCallum, how come you didn't come and sing in Pelicaneros? At night time, the only spotlight is on the singer, and if there's a drive-by shooting, guess who they'll shoot? I'm not dumb. I'm not gonna go risk my life. I told my own community, no way. That's it. Until the day you guys start knowing how to act as a community, I'll come back. I go there for gospel jams, elders gathering, anything that happens during the day with kids, I go there. But any of that stuff at nighttime, to see a young person be high on something and he's acting like a complete idiot on the dance floor, it's not even funny, but some people actually laugh at that. This guy's out of his mind, papia. That's why on the reserve, a lot of the abnormal, the stuff that is wrong, we accept it as it's okay. That was your mama. When I go back to the reserve, when I was a kid growing up on the reserve, one gunshot in the summertime, holy man, all summer they talked about that one gunshot. I wonder what happened. And they finally find out the guy was duck hunting and he forgot to take all the gun and blew. Today, I was standing outside a funeral in Pelicaneros with a cigarette. Boom, boom, boom. My mom. Like it's a normal day. I used to freak out as a kid when I heard a gunshot. Now there's 4 here in my mom's. That's what I'm talking about, and I talked to my mom about how come when I was a kid, a teenager got pregnant at 15 years old, they were trying to hide her in the house and you never saw her until she had a baby. Today we're walking on Walmart. The baby's not even born, there's already 4 boxes of Pampers getting ready. We see lots of that when the girl's 15 years old. Where were we? So stop that before that happened. We haven't let our child even become a child. We took it away. Kada ma meat sick. What else do you want, my girl? Really? So that's what happens, man. But at the same time, when we've had our own childhood get robbed from us, you know what the end result happens when somebody takes your kids, and then they take your childhood away? When you finally have your kids, holy man, you become Kispiwa Tawaso. Right? You hear that Cree word? Kispiwa Tawaso. We're at red alert with that one in every reserve. Because when we took over our children, oh, did we ever take over? We took over too much. Do you guys agree? Yeah. Yes, because we became overly protective because somebody took our childhood away. Our own childhood. How come do you think when you go across the reserves all over Canada, when I go to the band store or grocery store, all the posters on the wall? Yeah. There's nothing for the kids. There's bingo for adults. There's elders night for elders. Yet every gathering you go to, just wait. Never mind the opening prayer. Every child matters. We try and put that statement first every time. One of the band halls, there's even an actual guy chasing kids out of the, get out of this band already! Orange shirt, iskak. Every child matters in the state. Oh my goodness. You know what I call that? Bullshit. That's what that is. Are we really putting every child matters? Really? Even me, I have a problem with that. Now I have grandchildren that cry for me when I want to go to the casino. Really, they cry. They want grandpa time. And I'm glad in the last few days I haven't gone there because I actually been working so hard, I actually worked my body too hard. I got too tired to go there. Even though my mind's already, oh, I want to go there so bad, but my body is saying, no, go to bed. Right? So I have to also self-discipline myself too. I have to know when to say, right? So I got totally off track right from 300 years ago to today. But don't mind, I'm all over the damn place. This is my home reserve. And my home reserve has got 4,000 crazy Indians today. And this was our store in 1939. And this is an arrow that points to that store, but it burned down in the 90s, and they rebuilt one. And right across the road from here, that's my house. That's where I grew up on the reserve. Matawisak, they called it. The front of the lake, Matawisak. And this area right here, when I grew up, the Bronx. We don't go to the Bronx. So this was and not only that, right in the center of the community, our Cree name is Kapasquasik. Kapasquasik, the center of the community where there's a little meadow. And this was our battlefield. It was our battlefield. When I was growing up in day school, all the Anglicans live on this side and the Catholics on that side. So guess what we did? We had a slingshot war on whose Jesus looked better than whose. At recess time, lunch time, right after school, or rocks or anything, but it was over the religion. We constantly had a religious war, and I swear to God, to this day, some elders won't even talk to each other in my community over religion. That's how bad it has separated our community. I had an uncle that got married on this side, and half of my family wouldn't attend, because he married an Anglican. That's how deeply the religious beliefs affect our people. And especially, when you marry an Anglican and a Catholic together and when they die, oh my God, that creates a war on where we're going to bury this person. Right? How many times have we gone through that when an Anglican and a Catholic got married and then one died and there's a big fight in the family where to bury this person? It's really up to the husband or the wife. It's none of your business. But we make it our business. So religion has done a really good number in my community. I grew up, I'm glad I met a wife who never would. She did have church service, but not the way religion was enforced in me. I was every day the Catholic church bell rang in the evening. I hated October. October especially, that was Mary's month. Now I have to go to church even longer because we have to say the rosary now. I want to go and play. I don't have time to recite a prayer there for an hour. Really, as a young person, that drove me wild. You know, to sit still there and try and pray when you want to go play. Especially me at 14, I want to play music. You know, this is my way. It's in my way, right? But that's what my mom would tell me. In order to get to heaven, you go over there, Darryl. And I totally used to believe that those magic 20 steps on how to get to Jesus. And later on in life, I didn't turn my back on my faith, but I don't practice my faith anymore. Today I spend a lot of time trying to figure out who I am as a person. And the more deeper I start to know the knowledge of my culture, the better off I am because I understand. I bet you all of you here, you're a Cree, but you don't even know the name of your Cree God. What do you call God in Cree? Manto, you're saying creator. All the history books will use that word Kichimanitu or Kisimanitu, right? But those are two words that they use. Kisimanitu or Kichimanitu means that Kisnarwa Pachita Kisimanitu, we say Kisiwatso Manto. It's a short term for Kisiwatso. So we say Kisi Manto. So Kisiwatso Manto. Two words. A kind creator. So the history books have always recorded kind creator. Two words. But how come every culture in the world only has one word for their God? Because we forgot it over time. The Cree word for our God is Ai. Everybody say it, Ai. When I haven't seen my mom for about almost a year, Ai, Mama! Ai! That's the first word that comes out of me because I'm going, God, it's my mom! In Cree. Pipi sisini taigit. We don't go and say, Kisimanto. We go, Ai, tapuili chumari nauso. You hear it? Ai. In the springtime when the plants are blooming. Ai, tapuili mawana. We're saying, God, what a beautiful smell. But we forgot that name, but we still use it. No matter if it was whipped out of you, you thought it was whipped out of you, it still comes out of you. You're a Cree. God gave you that gift to call him in your own name. Ai. Ai Simanto. Ai. God, you kind creator, ito yan. Ai. Kahit timagi, dumutaw, nagbinsito, Ai. That's the first word that comes out of us. Hapon ni Mama, happy ako. Ipagastawi pa the tawases. My mom was yelling, Ai, Biwichin! And I reminded my mom that. Phone ata ako my mom on the cell, Mom, kung ko kisiman to. Ha? Yeah, nagkita mo sa dira sa kisiman to. Ai, sa dira so. Ai, nusa sa kanya, wita. She totally believed me. After I explained to her how many times Ai comes out of my mouth on a daily basis. Because when the white man first came 300 years ago, one of the things he recorded right away was, for these people see their God in everything they do. Right? That's right, because everything all diti ipita upad ay. Wala po hit mo tanong sumit. Aye, and then what's us? Right? It's always coming out. So that's why they were saying they're a godly people. They see their God in everything. So Bisnano, as indigenous people, we believe that everything had life. Apu asne. Asne apu matsiti ituyak. Itapu idita mane maskini utana. Asne do gayasu do te uche aski. That's why we call that rock grandfather. That rock is called grandfather because he's been here longer than most of us. Right? He's an ancestor and he carries lots of different minerals. And when you heat it up, those minerals heal our body naturally without going to a doctor. And that's indigenous knowledge. You want to discuss the oh, there's devil worshiping going on inside that smoke. We're so spooked by that sweat lodge, and yet when you tell the beautiful story, her womb, your mom's womb, the rocks when they heal you, you're born again. You're given another opportunity in this world to change your ways. Throw it away. Once and for all, you're going to change. I'm born again into this world. We have that practice for thousands of years. With lots of pain. You go over there to leave your pain, your grief. You get back in harmony with the community. Because you know how it is, our culture. Sometimes when somebody dear to us leaves us in our community, what happens? Everybody feels it. Everybody feels that loss. Because somebody was dear to us. So we are still a community. Nowadays, sometimes there's lots of abuse of our culture. Some people in my community, when somebody dies, holy man, the cheaper council will spend more money on you when you die than when you're alive. Is that true? Yeah. Not only that, you know what? If I die today, I'm going to have about 200 of my family arrive in Prince Albert, and guess who's going to pay for it? Not my wife. Don't look at her. Chief and council is going to pay for it. Even if 200 people showed up here, paying hotel rooms, meals. Holy smokes, $30,000 for keeping 4 days of a hotel room? Gas? Right? So, we abuse our culture. I always say, how come there's 100 people here for that service? I was in Pelican last week. This guy was walking around asking for something to eat. Nobody would even put him up in his house. Any of his uncles would even take him inside the house. Now all of a sudden there's 100 of us here want to come and cry. And we all have to be paid to do it. Is that abuse of culture? Does that happen in Montreal Lake? No. Not really, not, but... All right, this is real stuff. I get down and talk real hard about the kind of stuff people do because I'm also a former chief. And I know how much people try to fool me, right? Lying through their teeth, openly calling themselves an elder in front of everybody and lying to me in the back there to try and get money. Be sincere. If you say you're an elder, live up to it. Be honest. Because I have a little exercise with my Cree language group where we ask these elders to come in. Okay, we're going to find out what is a good elder. Oh, they had about 40 things to write. Now I want to know what is a munchy elder. A bad elder. Oh boy, you got kind of quiet, but an elder that drinks with young people is no. An elder that sells drugs and alcohol to young people is not an elder. An elder that gets up and says, I'm an elder, is not an elder. You know, all these things they are talking about. But we're trying to determine what is a strong elder. Because my grandchildren, if they go to Pelican Arrows and if they're looking for smart elders, I'm not going to send them to that elder that's bootlegging. I want that elder that's going to tell them an oral story about our area and share knowledge. Knowledge keeper. Not the bootlegger. Or that elder is still fooling around with women. And act like fawns. Still slicking his hair back like he's 19 and gets a pension check. Come on, play your role. Once you say you're an elderly age, you gotta start acting your age too, I think. Anyhow, so before treaty, traditionally indigenous children were educated by parents and elders who passed down traditional skills, knowledge, and wisdom accumulated over many generations. So when you take a look at this picture, you see the togetherness. They're happy, they're smiling, there's teaching being passed on. This is who we were before treaty. This is how we moved. This is how some of our people still live today. Some of us would still prefer to be out in the land. And big, big check mark to those people who still use the land. If you left Boots McCallum out in the land, he'd be dead in 2 days. I don't even know how to start a fire, I don't think. I'd probably have to check YouTube. But it's true. Be honest, too. If you don't have that knowledge, go look for it. Even me, like you always say as a big man, you know, like, well, when are you going to kill your moose? What? Now I have to go kill a moose? So I went on my moose hunting. No big deal. We're sitting in a truck and we shot from the truck. And we called it a hunt. Yeah, geez, there's more work getting that meat to the vehicle than there was hunting. And that's what we called a hunt. And nowadays, you know what? You check out a natural moose hunt, 9 out of 10, it will not be an indigenous man. It's a mooniao. And chances are when they interview them, they'll say, oh yeah, I met this old trapper at the lodge here about 40 years ago, and he taught me everything I know. Somehow, some way, they'll have that knowledge come from our people, but they're the ones getting paid now on YouTube tracking a moose. Right? So be careful how much you share. And as indigenous people, we always believe in 4 things. You hear that word, ni-do. Ni-do. It almost sounds like ni-yo. Because we do things in 4s. So in the cycle of life, we believe the infant and child between 0 and 12 years old is the childhood stage. This is where, back in our culture, when women actually used to breastfeed and nurture children, isistumawasochik. Breastfeed. We're out of Infalag! Go to Walmart! Baby's crying! We're out of Infalag! Ay, ba ba mama itutusin mo? my God, we haven't forgotten our ways. When I talk about this part, the first thing I did was I got to call my mom. Mama, you know that. You know that. Oh, thank God there's no infrared back there. You don't know what's in that stuff. Not only that, the biggest bond. Even doctors will tell you this. If you lose that bond with your child between 0 and 4 years old, you'll never get it back. And if you don't start off by nurturing your child by hugging and holding and breastfeeding, they've lost that connection with their mom right off the hop. And in a lot of cases, you don't say that much, but it's a CP because we don't have that connection where what my mom says I have to listen. It's no longer there because my mom wasn't there right off the hop. So it's very critical when we go back, when we look at these infant child stage 0 to 12 years old. Look back. Doesn't matter where you're at in life. We always have an opportunity to correct ourselves when we hear the truth. The truth sets you free. It's because somebody else is telling the same thing that you're going through, and at least that person is trying to do something different. And I gotta try it. Which don't go, it's not moving, and we gotta hang on to who we are as a people. And it's very critical. I think it's our grandchildren. Share with them. What do you guys remember of how you were treated between 0 and 12 years old? What do you remember about your moms and dads? Don't talk about the residential school. There was no parenting that went on over there. What do you remember about your mom and dads? Not the residential school. Not the day school. Your actual connection with mom and dad before you got taken away. What were they? Some of you remember that love and nurture. So at some point, I go, an elders gathering, and we sit down and write down some of our history. We have to also provide opportunity how to change it, not just talk about it. But speak of a teenager. There was a man who was getting his was saying his was so we pats. We get the Magno of me. Get the Magno of opportunities when you so big except. It was I said to get 2 hours or so. I think what my Stapinani. We were told, Umama of more detail that stop the Stavas at the Vici, whatever, it's got 25 years old, they speech. It's the Magan. You can almost say there's something going to terribly go wrong with that family. And that lady has 3 kids. And where the hell is the baby daddy? Right? We all love to post who the baby daddy is, but he's nowhere to be seen. And we have a big problem with that on the reserve. Some young guys think it's a joke to go around having 12 kids all over the reserves, thinking you're Fred Astaire. Or trying to win the title of having the most kids in the North, I don't know. But you know what? At the end of it, people will look at you disrespectfully, how you led your life. So it's very critical to work on repairing. I have 2 other kids that one of them I didn't even have a relationship until 12 years old. I have another daughter that they fought me in court, and when the time came for a blood test, they never showed up. But later on, she did her own DNA when she became of age, and she is my daughter. And today we connect. We work on it. We work on repairing. And in some cases, it wasn't my fault when their parents were withholding them. But I'm here today. And you can't do nothing about the past. Yesterday was yesterday. Matskali giwi din kisi. Muti puise guys, nigano ti peace. Nigano ti. That's why it's so important, Michi Tomana, when we're talking about leadership, nigano ti, we don't bring up the past. We're trying to talk about where we're trying to lead our people into the future. Because right now we have too much dysfunction. But it's like a big tree with many branches of dysfunction. We have alcohol, we have drugs, we have crystal meth, crack cocaine, all these different branches. We have child neglect, we have elder abuse. So all these branches on the reserve, one branch at a time. Don't try and chop that tree. You know what happens when you chop a tree and you're standing behind it? It's going to kick back and hit you on. No good. One branch at a time. Branch off all those abuses one at a time. But are we working on it? In our communities, do we have a monthly opportunity for the elders to sit down once a month? Tea, ballot, have storytelling time, have Cree night, have activities, but keep the culture alive. Somehow, some way. Sacrifice that one little casino night for Montreal Lake or bingo night, right? Because a lot of us, we have a schedule. We go to bingo first, or if I win a little bit, you know where I'm going to go. All right. Now you're talking my language. So anyway, teenager, it's a very critical time. Your teenager is moving out from being a child into a young woman. The woman where your child will just burst out and cry emotionally. And it's their little baby still hanging on, and they still got to move on. But you see it in this stage. Now this is a very critical stage because if we don't do it right, we're going to end up, like I said, we're going to end up with teenage pregnancy. We're going to end up with teenagers starting alcohol early without guidance. And if we don't teach Wahutuin, now we have young cousins sleeping with young cousins on the reserve. Right? That happens because we fail to teach Wahutuin, which is our responsibility as elders and cultural keepers. And then when we get to the adult stage, now we're married, we're having children. We have to work with another partner, right? And then finally, the last stage in our life is the elder stage. But it's also a good opportunity to pagitnaso, offering. Give what you can before you leave this planet. Right? So that's, and right? And in the Cree law, these are our own Cree laws. Life is very important. Livelihood, how you live your life. Very important. Dat zei ze was going, die zei ze moet hier on taski. Je moet niet naar west. Aí, kita na apata. Manatsuin. Respect. How much kita no respect. Manatsina no si. Ipitina no as mo sulingan that Darryl McCallum has no respect. Ipitina omana, they'll say you have no respect. So, but sometimes when you want to identify somebody has no respect, maybe somebody didn't teach that person any respect. So instead of saying that, go to that person and try and correct them a little bit. Say, you know what? It hurt me. Because your tongue really hurt me. You're not supposed to go around with an angry tongue. And especially my grandchild, it's not good to go around hurting other spirits. Because remember, you have a spirit in you. Attack. So watch what you do with your attack and don't go around destroying other attacks. Right? Very sacred. Good child rearing. This is where we're really stuck. Because a lot of us, if we were in residential school for 10 years, well, how are you supposed to learn child rearing? When there's nobody there to teach you like your mom and dad, when it's the right time for you to look after your little brother and sister, to do the certain things. Even as a young lady, as a teenager, and say, right? My teenage daughter, go and change the diaper of your little sister. That's teaching the teenager you're going to have a mom someday, you're going to be a mother someday, and you're going to have to learn how to change diapers. So my role as a mother is, Tanis, you're a teenager, go change the pamper of your sister. So I'm passing on that knowledge. Tagiskiri that isinte semiskoptaske. Tanis, system ano tagisims. System. System is a Cree word to make the baby sleep by humming. Is system. Right? So all these Cree words meaning, well, some of you are probably hearing them for the first time sometimes, but we're bringing them back. Mudananto. Wagutwin. I know I have relatives in Brochet, Manitoba. I have relatives in Nelson House, Manitoba. I have relatives all over the place when I start showing you where my family tree belongs. And believe it or not, way, way over on the other side of my family tree, I'm actually related to my wife. As we were looking at the treaty, I showed her a piece of, a copy of the signing at Malanosa. We have names on that list of who signed at Malanosa, and it said Joseph McCallum. And then when I saw that name, oh my goodness, I just got excited because, oh my God, my great-great-grandfather was at the actual treaty. Now I can go around bragging about my great-great-grandfather was actually at the actual treaty signing. So, Joseph McCallum, I come from, my grandfather's name would have been John Baptiste McCallum, and in Pelican in Cree, and when you decipher it in the Cree language, we call it Sapachis. Jean-Baptiste. It's French. Anyway, so that's what they called him, Sapachis. And then from my dad, my grandfather, Sapachis, came Tanas. And in English, Dennis. Tanas. So Tanas was my great-grandfather. Now Tanas is a father, would have been Joseph McCallum. So that's how he became the signer at Mullinosa. Joseph McCallum is my great-great-grandfather. So he would have been at Mullinosa. So, and then Joseph had kids. He had another son, Dennis, and the other one was Emil. So Emil McCallum, that's where my wife's clan comes from. So about 3 generations. It's really distant, but I'm so glad it is really distant too. But that's what happens when you're doing your genealogy, right? Then on the other side, when I'm doing my identity teaching, I know so much about our history in our area, but at the end of the day, I'm also half German. Yeah, when I did my own DNA testing, my mom was with a minor in 1968 in Flin Flon, Manitoba. And that's how I became into this world, was with a minor. I'm mining in Flin Flon. So I've been looking for my dad, and I found some of him on DNA and stuff, but I don't think he's on that Ancestry.com, but some family are. So I'm at that stage where I'm still looking for my other half, because I still need to tell my identity story. If you guys know my son, his name is Jabu. Jabu came out totally blonde in our family, and you see my wife and I, we're not blonde. But Germans are blonde. They carry a blonde gene. So that's how my kids ended up with this blonde hair. When I did my DNA testing, I realized I also have German blood. And down the road, when you do your own history, somewhere down the road, there's intermarriage that happened in our history. We're all somehow, some way Métis. That's how we end up with these names like McCallum. I don't have a Cree name. If I was going to use my Cree name, I'd use my grandmother's name before they changed it, Tawipisan. I would be Darryl Tawipisan. My grandmother was going to residential school as Evelyn Tawipisan, came home as Evelyn Michelle. So she had a Cree name going in, came back with a French last name. So that's how we ended up. During that time is when they were changing names. So we were Tawipisans prior to that. But a lot of us don't have those old Cree names anymore. Because over time, during treaty, there's Indian agents, there's people coming in with supplies that were Scotsmen, that were starting to intermarry. The other thing that was going on is, which is a terrible side of the treaty, but they would use alcohol to get to our women. And that's where we start seeing intermarriage. They were using alcohol. So, and sometimes a priest would go actually give a blanket to the medicine man, so the medicine man would get sick. And the priest would have that medicine to cure him, to make his medicine look more powerful than the medicine man. Then the people would start believing the priest more than the medicine man. So that's how our spirituality started to get defeated. Defeated in the eyes of our people, but it was the blanket. The blanket carried a foreign sickness. A sickness we couldn't cure because it wasn't ours, right? Before that, before the white man came, our oral stories always, the Indian had the common cold once in a while. Right? But when the white man came, all these diseases came. Now we're dealing with lots of sickness. The last one, faith and spirituality. A lot of us are today, we're bound by religion too. There's 2 ways to do it today. If you want to address your spirituality, what satisfies me with my spirituality is I go both worlds. If somebody's gonna invite me to go participate in the ceremony, no matter what kind of ceremony morning will start, and they reach you on if I'm available. I'll go help out if I'm never invited. And it's my big step forward. It's still that big leap step forward on the Wichita tribe. Don't chop it down, don't call it down before you even try. Just be an observer, you don't have to participate, but observe. Do it. It's your spirit actually crying out, saying, yes, nista pitos no tituti. Pitos sa notisiwas kawan. And that's another one. Before I close off and take a short little pause. In the Cree culture, that's the only word that's repeated twice. Atak and star. Star in Cree is called Atak. Your spirit inside you is called Atak. Because back in the day, before treaty, our people would look up to the heavens and someone say, good night, you teach. They believed this Atak someday would be that Atak over there, twinkling up in the heavens. And the teachings the elders would tell you is, remember my grandchild, what you do in this world, some stars shine brighter than others, depending on what you do in this planet. If you do really good, my grandchild, boy, you'll twinkle bright up there. If you haven't done very good to mankind, you might not even twinkle up there. You know, these old teachings. And for a kid to physically see the stars and see bright ones and some barely, you know, it's a powerful teaching. He physically sees it. Because us Indian people, we do things by seeing. When we go to the trap line, we got curriculum book, lesson plans, chalkboard. Our children will look at you and observe, and one or two times, and then usually will say, "I'll give that one." You give it a try, right? That's a lot better than residential school. You better do it right. So the Indian way has always been very, very caring, nurturing. So even there, be careful how we speak to our grandchildren, because sometimes the residential school comes out of us. We start acting like that nun that used to act like that to other kids. Really, I walk into schools, in the hallways, and you can hear the residential school teachers still yelling sometimes. Hey! It's a place of learning. Even there, call it the right place. A place of learning. A place to go learn and cry. Mato. That's what's a place, residential school, where children cried and learned. Now we took over our own education, we changed the name. That's all they're doing in that school now. Unless they're still making them cry in Montreal, eh? Right? Do you hear that word? We're actually describing a residential school when we say our own buildings. So how do we reconcile that? Reconciliation means I'm going to change the way we say it moving forward. We need only a place to learn. Not So with that, I think it's a very good time to call up a little 10-minute break. Give you guys a washroom break, and I'll be right back. And We only have like 40 slides left. All right, take a breather. The Cree laws, neither of us Swivina. But the other thing that I introduced to our children through treaty education is the indigenous worldview. Our people prior to Christianity coming to this country. So our Cree people ultimately believed in Ai, the creator, ultimate spirit entity, the ruler and giver of all life. Kisiman to. As the ultimate creator entity. We have a very heavy belief in the sun dance ceremony. With almost every culture in Canada would celebrate a form of a sun dance to honor the sun. Providing us warmth. Mother Earth, the moon, your spirit. Our indigenous belief before was we were star people. We believed that our people were up in the heavens with the stars. So the belief that your spirit would one day twinkle up in the heavens. So some of our indigenous beliefs are in our language still. So that kind of survived. And plant life, all the medicines, their ceremony. When what's his name goes to go pick traditional medicines, he doesn't just pick them off the ground. He offers a prayer of thanks of why he's taking this plant and what this plant is going to be used for and who it's going to heal. And we thank Mother Earth. Small life forms like insects. Before Christianity, even an insect as small as a spider. What do we call a spider in Cree? Right? Cross Lake, Manitoba, they call it Kukumanagi teats. I started laughing because we don't say it that way. Kukumanagi teats. But remember the first word, kukum. Grandmother, insect, grandmother. Because back in the day when we had birch bark dwellings, Kukuminagitus would crawl into the birch bark dwelling and make a web in the corner. And he would catch all the flies so the little babies wouldn't get sick. So the spider became very, very sacred like our grandmother. Today, spider! So our culture has drastically changed, right? And when we hear the grandmother spider story, now we tell that grandchild, no sim nada, kin pao bobo. Don't kill bobo. Right? And when little children at 3 years old, bang a spider. Little kid runs over there and steps on that spider. We just taught that kid how to kill at 3 years old. Right? And in our culture, we didn't teach. We taught that kid, that's kokum. Leave kokum alone. Right? You don't dare kill your kokum. It's badass. I'm even saying an English word for you guys. We were just talking about that. What's the right way to say it? Mama scats, we scatty whack. Why do you guys say what's the gas? Those are 3 English words put together really quick. What's the catch? What's the catch? Because when the Englishmen, when we were all laughing their Cree joke and you didn't know what was going on, what's the catch? What's the catch? And well, what did we do? We started being monkey. Oh, what's the catch? That's where that word came from. 3 English words put together. Mamascats. Mamascats is the right way to say it. That's it. Wiskatadiwak. Now it's really, really more than Mamascats. It's Wiskatadiwak. Right? But what's the cats is? It's an invented word. So, kaya ito hindi man nagsita, especially the tobacco and smudging. When we believe our prayers go up with the Creator. That's why it's so powerful. I have a smudge bowl at home. I'm a Catholic. I still follow some of my Catholic faith ways to do things. But I also practice my own way by smudging. When my heart gets heavy, some days I forget to smudge, but I try to make it a daily exercise to remind myself the first thing you should do is thank the Creator. Give me the one sky. And don't pray for anything. Don't pray for that jackpot in the casino. It's not gonna happen. When you're praying like that, you're not praying, you're begging. Right? It's like me when I was 14 years old. I begged God, I want that Fender guitar, Telecaster guitar. And it would never happen. Sometimes I used to go like this. I pray for my parents to quit drinking. And it would never happen. Then I eventually turned my back on God. Because God is not answering my prayers. So I turned my back on Him. I don't believe in you anymore. You don't answer my prayers. That's how I was when I was a teenager. I started to not believe in God. Because my prayers are not being answered. Because I wanted change in my family and nothing's changing, God. And I guess the big learning lesson there is I have to be the change. I have to be the first one to crawl out of that, to create that change. And you know what? When I started doing that, the change I cried for started to follow me. I helped my own parents into sobriety. We both even fell back into alcoholism, my parents and I. But we got up again. And got up again. Then finally, we could finally say no. We could say it's not part of our lives anymore. But that took a long time. I grew up in the reserve day school, a lot of times hungry going to school. Because all the drunks came and ate up all our food. There's nothing to eat. And you cannot learn on an empty stomach. Nowadays, most of our schools have to even provide a breakfast program. Because the kids are showing up. They're showing up hungry. And whose responsibility is that? It certainly ain't Chief and Council. Chief and Council doesn't go make all these kids on the reserve. I hope not. Right? But we have such a heavy dependency on them. I know that. I was a chief for 6 years. Why do you think I'm not a chief anymore? I had enough sense to get out of there. As soon as they heard the word no. Yeah. So I'm just supposed to sit here. It's like a puppet on a string. And as soon as you go, oh no, you're not popular anymore. No. Gotta get rid of it. That's not leadership. As soon as they hear no, it's not leadership. So the heavy dependency on chief and council, that's even directly related to your treaty. Before, the Indian agent used to be the one that used to sit there with all the rice and the flour and give a little bit in a brown bag for this family and A little bit of rice over here, a little bit of bacon over here. He was chopping it up for every family. And when we chased the Indian agent away, guess who replaced him? The chief. The chief now became a Gamayo. And to this day, we still think the chief's always going to hand us. We don't even shake hands with him anymore. Because we've lost all respect of that role. Back in the day, they used to have so much respect for the chiefs because the chief would decide how the people were going to be fed, how to eat, where they would hunt, where the animals were. He had to be a very smart chief to know the environment. A lot of respect. We didn't go pound on his door. He was busy thinking about how to feed the family. So that role of having that great respect for the chief for making all those smart decisions on the land for us to keep eating, it's gone. Today we ask for a check. And if there's no check, I'm not happy. Right? So that's the way the reserve is running. That heavy dependency. Even elder abuse. Right? I love my kukum once a month at the end of the month. I'm going to go fight over who's going to take her to PA. I'll make sure that grandchild over there doesn't get to her before I do. Really? I see that. I even had my own grandmother tell me one time, Musulman, Moyo Imitia. Moyo Imitia. Granny, there's a fine line how far to you see what's in. Right? Don't get too far to you see what's in to give it all to your grandchildren and you sit there hungry. Especially when your grandchildren are dumb, being drunk all week and leaving their kids with you. Now I see a business going, oh, just wait. I'm going to call the portfolio counselor and I'm going to get my kids back. Now I'm abusing the leadership to get my kids back. Does that happen in Montreal Lake? I'm getting pretty quiet here. But it happens everywhere. We're abusing the leader. That's not his role to go try and capture kids back for your stupid activities. Being drunk 5 days and half of your family is looking for you all over the reserve. And when they finally find you, they turn around and you start fighting your own family for finding you. No, yeah, that's a real Wiskadiwak. But that happens and nobody does nothing. We turn around and you know what the band counselor does? Well, I want to stay in office, so I'm going to go fight for those kids. So he goes and fights for those kids. Now this guy, I can go party for 2 weeks this time. Right? You're letting those people get away with their behavior on the reserve and saying it's okay to do that. So they go and do it even longer this time. They give more pressure to the grannies and everybody in the family. Because of that one dysfunctional person in our family that doesn't want to grow up. Right? We go through that? I do. I don't know about you guys. So, how do we make sense of all of this? Back in the day before the white man came, we always had this belief of this powerful medicine wheel. Medicine wheel. When they say our medicine people could travel the world in spirit, they already knew there was black people, white people, yellow people, and red people in this world. By staying right in this continent, they could travel with their spirit to go see things that we couldn't see. They were gifted. Sa Sigiskidita are the 4 colors of mankind, and we haven't even met them. Even our grandfathers were saying there's going to be a people coming across the ocean, they're going to take everything. We were told. The medicine wheel told us these people were out there and we were going to meet at some point. So that's what the medicine wheel tells us. And further to that, emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical. The 4 aspects of life in order for you to have balance. Balance. In this planet. You gotta get to know the 4 quadrants of life. How to balance them. Mentally. I even have to ask myself sometimes, right? Ask yourself that question, am I thinking right? But you know what I do? Before I'm going to say something in front of people, I'm going to go see Nolan or 4 other elders before I say something. To be very careful that I don't damage anybody what I'm going to say. So my mental capacity, in my mind, I go find the right people. Harry Tools, can we talk? Harry, there's a lot of things bothering my mind. Can I go have a coffee with you? You might not say anything back to me, Harry, but just listen to me, right? But that's my approach. I trust Harry. I trust him as an elder, and I'm going to give him all my trust to give him what I'm going through. I'm going to tell him I just can't seem to win a jackpot in the casino area. Right? But at least I'm letting out what's really bothering me, and I trust him. And there's people in every community, every one of you sitting in this room, know that magic person that you can open up to. That you're able to say, yes, I can share my heart and let go. Stop, wait a minute. The healing starts like that. If it has to start one-on-one with somebody that you totally trust, eventually that healing becomes so powerful that it doesn't bother you when you're in a small group. Next thing you know, you're in front of a whole bunch of people and it doesn't bother you because you feel good about where you are in life. Because you've healed. But most people stay away from the front because there's still issues all the time. Even me, when I used to go to church first time, I used to try and hide in the back with all the sinners. You know. But it's true, it's people carry lots. And especially as indigenous people, all the traumas we've gone through, 60s group, residential school, elder abuse, leadership abuse. Now I'm identifying that because it's a real issue. Elder abuse, all kinds of abuse that are going on. We are carrying a lot of garbage. But we eventually have to work on healing. And one of those healings is, at some point in Montreal Lake, there is a ceremony called the burning ceremony. On a piece of paper, you're going to write down all the garbage that's ever bothered you in this world. And we're going to make a fire and you're going to go burn that away and you're never going to turn back and look at it ever again. And you're only going to move forward from that on. Do a ceremony like that. Bring ceremony back where we bury all our dirt. And we're going to move forward as a community together. You know what happens? You only get strength. And you guys are powerful because, first of all, you have so many elders gaps in your community, and that's power. That's a lot of power. You are the history. You are the last culture. Some of you don't even speak the Cree language. That's been taken away from you. But there's nothing wrong with relearning our language too. We can learn from each other. Nowadays, there's so many Cree apps. You can't make an excuse you can't learn Cree. It can't always be Sasquatch videos like me. Always trying to look for Sasquatch. Spirituality, take a careful view where you stand with spirituality. I'm a Catholic. I know my Catholic faith, but I'm also on a journey to learn my Cree songs. I've gone beyond Christianity. I know what it is. I know it's all in written form. But I like the oral form of learning my God. Because every time I learn the oral traditions of our people through the drum, it seems to make more sense to me as an Indigenous person than reading it. It touches my heart more powerfully because I am an Indigenous person. Pigis kwano pigis kwano mo da pagunta palit na gisiman to pigis kuyo. Igi palit na ni ro tatapmat sila. So let's not let it die. Physically, as much as you can, gawi was gawi. Even me, I used to be 260 pounds when I was a chief, sitting in the restaurants 3 times a day. Today, I'm very careful how much I eat. Sometimes I don't even eat all day. I'm fasting. I'm fasting for the people. People don't know I'm not eating, and I don't need to go around bragging about it, but sometimes when you want to do something very powerful, it's better to do it on an empty stomach because your spirit works even harder when you're on an empty stomach. Kasi when fasting, your own body is feeding itself. Try to do some physical activity. Some of you are in wheelchairs, but you can move your arms. You can still move your arms. You can even dance in your armchair. Yes. And I did the emotional one. Emotional. We have a hard time with our emotional one. Because when somebody told you, don't cry. You don't cry here. You're blocking that child's emotions. You're blocking that child's emotions. When a kid is crying lots, let him cry. Let him cry. He's letting it out. Right? Residential school, we were taught not to cry, but today it's okay. I cry in front of people when I want to cry. It doesn't bother me because my emotions, when my heart's very heavy, sometimes when I'm on the road, recently my radio was all busted and there's no screen. Now I'm all by myself in the truck. What am I going to do? I start forgetting. Well, I'm with my Creator. I start talking to the Creator, and next thing you know, 15 miles down the road, yeah, I'm all alone. I must look pretty crazy out on the road. But I start hearing myself, what I'm going through, and I'm but sometimes it's good to have a good cry. Have a good cry. Let it out. Even this teaching men don't cry. That's a teaching from residential school. That's bullshit. Men are the ones that pout the most. Especially me, when I start crying, you can't make me stop. But that's what I mean, those kind of emotions. Even my own dad, you could see the damage from residential school. My dad was cold. He never let out his emotions. Like to cry. Come on, Dad. The man, I can feel it. I go even his own dad's funeral. Still, no. All these people that he lost so great, and he just kept on holding it in. Because somebody told him as a kid, men don't cry. Oh, man. And then when I finally got my dad to finally cry, oh boy, he's just like a little 2-year-old. Bawling. He cried for my little brother who died in an accident. Cried for his dad. Cried for many people because he couldn't cry. That's what happens when you suppress your emotions. When you can't let out your cry, it might also come out in anger. Since I couldn't cry now, I'm taking it out on my wife in anger. Now that emotion has triggered other people to have more problems. So that trauma can trigger off anybody based on how we act. So be careful when you're, but don't be afraid to cry. Don't be afraid to laugh when it's funny. When Cree people joke, when Cree people share a joke, they all laugh. When ammonia jokes, one walks away like, who's gonna make fun of me? So that's not even a tease. You're not even joking when you make one person out of the circle feel small. That's bullying. When Cree people laugh, especially the ladies from the Rons, oh my God, in a circle, they all laugh. I was at the assembly and you could tell where the Rons is sitting. Yeah? So you see that. It's very healthy. And you know what? When those Laurent ladies start doing that, guess what happens? Other ladies start wanting to go over there. When they start hearing what's being shared. Right? So that laughter of emotion and spirit of emotion is powerful. So, and I always share Cree language, identity, culture, and treaties. They're all interrelated. Our children need to know. They need to be right here. They need to be in the red circle to have a good understanding of who they are. When I decided to be chief, I went to my elder who's 91 years old, two houses down from my house, saw me growing up all my life, right from moss bags. Or maybe Pampers at that time, I don't know. But anyway, when I went to go get his blessing to run for chief, I said, "Nimosom, I'm going to run for chief." And he looked at me and he said, "Musim, awas nteis kidimiso." Oh, the man here, I thought I was going to get a total good blessing from my elder. He said, "Get lost, go know yourself." Oh, the man did that ever bring me down. But it's also because my grandfather saw me from the time I was a child. He knew I didn't even know myself. How can you go help other people when you don't even know yourself? So then I had to stop that idea of wanting to be chief, and I had to go learn who I was first. And he said, "Musip, iski dem suone. Once you know yourself, my grandchild, you are going to know where you're going to go. But if you don't know who you are, you're lost. You don't know where you're going to go." Does that make sense? Yes, and that was me. Gonna try and go get a blessing from my elder, telling me, "Get lost, go know yourself first." And that was very good advice. So when I went to go get educated, some of the social studies books in Canada, we are the most labeled people in Canada. Indigenous people in Canada are the most labeled. You could either be Native, Indigenous, Aboriginal, Status Indian, First Nations, Treaty Indian, band member, Inuit, Métis, non-status, Bill C-31. No wonder these kids in that classroom, I don't know who I am. You only have 30 different names for me. So every time the Canadian government try to help or try and change Indian people, they come up with a new name. They think we're going to change with a new name. Really? So look at the office. The Department of Indian Affairs, the Department of Aboriginal Affairs. Now it's Indigenous Services Canada. So they changed their names 3 times. The Federation of Saskatchewan Indian Nations. They changed their name to Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations. 20 years from now, we might be KFC. The FSIN is in reference to the treaty. The word Indian is in the Federation of Saskatchewan Indian Nations. That's why they called it that back then. The word indigenous is not in the treaty. What if we end up with a prime minister who says, well, I'm not going to deal with those indigenous people. I'm only going to deal with Indian people. And if we don't call ourselves that, then what? We got to be very careful on the language that we use. So even us in Peter Valentine, Cree Nation, Montreal Lake, Cree Nation. If nobody speaks Cree here 50 years from now, can you guys call yourselves a Cree Nation? No, you have no right because you have no language to back it up. Is that coming? Yes, we all agree it's coming, but are we doing something about it? Not very much. So now, we know where we stand, right? As elders, we know where we stand, what we have to do with our leadership to get them to be back to being Cree. Let's get back to being Cree. The Cree way. Manachi to it. So when we introduce the treaty to the children, we start off with the medallion. Tatsumustawa. There was peace made between the Montreal and the Indian. As long as the sun shines, isim tanuusit, maskusiento pi, grass is green, si pitap mitsua, the river's flowing. So even this itself tells a story to the children. They all get excited. They all want to win a medal. But I tell them, part of your treaty number comes from this. So they get pretty excited. So, in our own 1894, Peter Valentine, later to be the first chief, he paddled up and down from Pelican to Laurens about 3 times before the Indian agent finally said, okay, in 1900, you'll be the first chief. So us and Peter Valentine were celebrating 125 years of the official treaty signed with Peter Valentine this year. So he served as the chief till 1917. And my community's got approximately 4,000 on reserve. And this was in 2016 statistics. 356,655 people identified themselves as Cree ancestry. 96,575 people speak the Cree language in Canada. That's in 2016. The latest ones that came out was 2021. So this number now of speakers across Canada has become 40,000. We are the last 40,000 speaking Cree people in Canada, and when we're dead, the language is dead. So unless we make a serious effort in every community with the leadership involved, agencies, don't go write syllabics on a door when you can't read it. We're fooling ourselves. Some of our buildings, we go to the buildings, there's syllabics everywhere, nobody can read it. We're just painting ourselves like we know the language. Don't go around painting a face. Do it, right? These statistics are scary. And when the treaties coming west, these are all the numbered treaties. We're on treaty number 6, signatory to treaty 6, but we all live in treaty 10 territory. But did it matter? Do you have somebody say, bring back that treaty 10 moose from here. Bring back my treaty 6 rabbit. We don't do that as Indian people. There's no borders. There's no boundaries. We're a people. We don't go around doing that, right? So, the treaties, before the treaties, we still live the same way. We accept each other. Doesn't matter who comes and hunts in our area. As a matter of fact, when we're Cree people and somebody's hunting in our area, hey bro, we saw another one over there. We don't turn around. We're going to charge you. We're going to call the CO. You're hunting in our area. Okay. Last area. What is that word? Nobody recognize it? It's Egyptian. No, just kidding. It's syllabics. This is the word when it's written in Roman orthography. You, teacher. But you know what? We should have recognized that word because in 1972, when all our chiefs got angry across Canada and wanted to control education, two things they wanted: teaching the native language and teaching the native language. Two things. Teaching in the native language and teaching the native language. But none of us recognize that syllabics. Since 1972, do you think we should have recognized it just like that if we did a tremendous job on language? Because today, Inuit people write like that. Little kids write like that, writing in syllabics up north. So, the other thing, look, language and culture, Indian children must have the opportunity to learn their language, history, and culture in the classroom. Curricula will have to be revised in federal, provincial, territorial schools to recognize the contributions which the Indian people have made to Canada, history, and life. That's what we wanted in 1972. And the last one, parental responsibility and local control. That's why we have local school boards now. That's why they started building band schools on the reserve, because we were taking control over our education. So, the big one, parental responsibility. I just finished saying parental responsibility. We have to provide a breakfast program at the school today because we don't have parental responsibility. So we've kind of gone backwards since 1972 on what we were asking for, right? We wanted to be responsible for our children. We didn't say 1970, I want the school to feed them every day, right? Now some of us parents say, I'll go to school, they'll feed you anyway. Now we're starting to depend on the school to feed our children, which is our responsibility, right? So, these are the things we wanted, local control. So think about where we are at in Montreal Lake Cree Nation, overall. I've said a lot of things here this morning, and it's probably going to get a lot of heads rolling when I'm done. Thinking about their leadership, thinking about the school, thinking about religion. But it's also a very good time for everybody to wake up and smell the coffee. Right?
Not the flowers, the coffee.
Sometimes it's a good time to wake up and smell the coffee, and sometimes that coffee doesn't smell too good. But what do I need to make it smell really good and to taste real good? I need to make some changes in my life. And if those of you in this room felt a little bit of that I need to change, don't be afraid. I'm always willing to tackle change because the more I change, the better off I am. I start to know me more and more, and the more I know myself, I'm better off. Nothing really bothers me. Some people can chop me up and say all kinds of nasty things in front of me and try to get me angry, and I'll just smile at you. And it'll just bounce off because my spirit's a little too powerful for that. My spirit is so powerful that you can try it. You won't get anywhere. Because I have a connection with IE. Get connected. It's going to make your life change. So with that, thank you.
Delegate Darryl, the last written. But the elders can last written on. I think our prevention team want to present you with a gift. And one of our, I think our chairperson of the prevention program is Bev Bird, to present you with a gift here.
All right, on, Deb.
Thanks again, Darryl.
All right.
So just for information, elders, we're going to bring Darryl into to Montreal Lake. I'm going to do a presentation to our Health and Agency Board, to our Camp Hope workers in Montreal Lake. So we're going to bring him over.